Hey guys, this is Derek Hartsfield with Two Sergeants Fly Fishing. I've been getting a lot of questions about Czech Nymphing Leaders, about French Nymphing Leaders, and using the Spanish method. So here we go. I'm going to talk a little bit about it. First of all, there's some things that you're going to need to get. If you're an experienced fly fisher, the first two things I would recommend are Steve Parrott's videos. So he's got Czech Nymphing 101, and then he's got the Czech Nymphing Masterclass. So I would absolutely recommend those. And then George Daniel's book, Dynamic Nymphing. You got to get this. It's a great book. You take what you currently know, combine it with these items and these sources of information, and you're going to have a wealth of information about Czech nymphing. But I'm going to boil all that down for you right now in terms of leaders. So there's some items that you're going to need to get if you're going to build your own Czech nymphing leaders, and I would absolutely build my own leaders. There are some pre-made leaders that you can buy, and those are good for when you're starting, but eventually you'll want to build your own. So one of the things that you want to get is various kinds of line that you can see. So you think about building a leader. You can start with like a 30 pound, then go to a 20 pound, and then a 10 pound, and then your tippet material. So I just chose Amnesia. This is a 20 pound red Amnesia material, so it's really bright. That's one of the things that I like about it. And then I've got a 15 pound high-vis yellow Amnesia line. And then I just happened to find this somewhere. It's Trilene Blaze Orange. This is a monofilament, and it's a 10 pound monofilament. It's a great line to build Czech nymphing leaders. So I've got those. Then I have got some Rio nymph shock that I will also use to build Czech nymphing leaders. At the butt of the leader, you want to have a real high vis material. So that's why I've got these materials. Then I've got a selection of Rio's tippet material. So I've got from 3X to 7X here. So I use that stuff constantly. I've got of course I need a pair of forceps. I'm going to need some nippers. I keep my good able pliers around also. These help out a lot of times, pulling knots and working knots. These are some pre-tied French nymphing leaders. I know that's not what we're talking about right now, but you can find these at Blue Quill Anglers. Just go to bluequillanglers.com and you can find these. I have a bodkin. This is good when you're working with the next thing, tippet rings. So you can slide the bodkin through the tippet ring and pull the knot real tight. Another thing I use a lot of is Zap-A-Gap. So when I'm tying blood knots, when I'm tying surgeon's knots, I'll tie the knot and then I coat it with Zap-A-Gap just to make sure that it's just good and tight. A couple other items I've got here. I use these a lot for bass leaders, but I also build Czech nymphing leaders out of them. I mean, why not? So I've got an Andy line here. It's a 30 pound high-vis yellow, and then I've got a 20 pound green. You can see this green. I might use this on occasion in a Czech nymphing leader, but it's really not as bright as I would typically like. This is though. I like this a lot. Another thing I've got here is just a ruler I picked up at Home Depot, so I can lay it on this bench, and you need 8 inches of this, 20 inches of that, and it's real easy to just lay it out here, cut it, tie it, and use it, because you probably build, however many of these leaders. Sometimes I sit down and build 10 or 20 of them. Then I realize I built too many and I give them away. So I've also got a leader wallet here made by Rio. I have one for nearly every species. And then I just put my different leaders and tippet material in here. I buy these because I can take the leader out of the plastic package but keep the paper. The paper still fits in this plastic pouch. So I can tell what I have here. If I have some miscellaneous leaders or things that I need to carry with me, I just use a 3x5 index card. Fits real nicely in these packets. So that's a good idea also. Let's get to this leader. So you see here what I've got is I took basically 20 inches of the Andy material. So I started out with 20 inches of this Amnesia 20 pound Amnesia material here. We got that. And then I took 20 inches of the high-vis green. Now here on this section, so I've got the Andy, and then I've got a blood knot in between those two. Blood knot, remember, is coated with Zap-A-Gap. I go down and I have the Amnesia high-vis green, and then sometimes I tie blood knots here depending on what the third section is going to be, but it's a little hard for me. I have big fingers to tie blood knots because of the difference in the diameter of this material, so sometimes I'll use like a triple surgeon's here to tie this knot, and then I coat it with Zap-A-Gap. So just to show you what I have here, or to kind of show you all the materials I'm using, I have 20 inches of the trilene material. So a Czech Nymphing Leader is going to be, some people say 3/4 as long as the rod you're using. So, you know, a 10-foot rod, it's going to be like 8.5 feet long leader. I match the leader length to my rod length. So if my rod's 10 feet, my leader's 10 feet. So remember, I've got 20 inches of the red amnesia. I've got 20 inches of the high-vis green amnesia. I've got 20 inches of the blaze orange trilene. Then I've got 40 inches of I've got a 5X tippet material, Rio tippet material on here. Now, you'll notice here too that I used a tippet leader in between the blaze orange trilene and my 40 inches of 5X tippet. The reason I did that is because as this tippet material gets used up, I can just tie more tippet material onto this tippet ring without depleting my my blaze orange here. So the first 60 inches of this leader I can use for a long time. I'm just going to be replacing since I have a tippet ring, I'll just be replacing my 5X tippet material here, if I even need to do that. Because at the end of the 40 inches of 5X tippet material, then I put 20 inches, so a total of 120 inches, I put 20 inches of 5X tippet material. So remember, you have 20 inches of the amnesia red, 20 inches of the amnesia high-vis green, 20 inches of the trilene blaze orange, that's 60 inches. You have 40 inches of the 5X Rio tippet material, and then of course a tippet ring, and then you have another 20 inches of the 5X Rio tippet material. And if you want to go a little smaller there, like if you want to go 6-inch or 6X or 7X, because you're dealing with spooky fish, do it. So at the end here, I've got a really heavy fly. We'll talk more about how the flies are organized in my fly box later, but we've got a real heavy fly here. This fly weighs 12.5 grains. So I've got that fly here. Then that's my heaviest fly. Then here, I've got a fly that's not so heavy. This fly weighs like less than 1 grain. And this fly is also attached to my tippet ring. So, and then I've got, 7 or 8 inches here coming off of this tippet ring here. So I'm covering all areas of the water column. You can see I've got my heavy fly dangling, and then I've got my light fly here dangling off of the same tippet ring. Here's the tippet ring, 7 inches to the light fly off one piece of 5X or 6X tippet, whatever you want to use. And then I have my heavy fly at the bottom. So I've got a leader that is 120 inches long, and this seems to work really well. I catch a lot of fish with that. Get creative though. These lines that I use, you can use anything that you might already have. If you have some real good mono that you want to use, it's real bright, use that. If you go into Bass Pro or Cabela's or see something online that's really a bright color, use it. It doesn't really matter. This is just what I found and what I felt comfortable using. It's what I like to tie. It ties well. So that gives you an idea of the things that you're going to need to make your own. Those are just Czech Nymphing leaders. In a later video, we're going to cover the Spanish leader, and we're also going to cover the leader used for the French method. As I talked to you about a minute ago, I'll also cover in another video how to arrange the flies in your box so that when you're on the stream, you can pick them quickly. I don't arrange them by species, I arrange them by weight, and then how I do that matters also. So we'll cover that later. I'm Derek Hartsfield with 2 Sergeants Fly Fishing. Thank you very much. I hope you have a good time fishing.